Is Christopher Lefholtz. I'm the VP of Development, and this is the Development Group Conversation. I'll start off with, actually I should say in the agenda, there's the slides as well as a video in there if you haven't already seen it, that was done by Bartek Marnane from Australia. He's not on the call this morning, mainly because it's, I believe, about 1 o'clock in the morning his time. I put in the agenda just one quick note on terminology. Originally in the video, we called it 9-box. That was the old term. It's also an industry standard term for those who've been in the industry for a while. We are actually calling it the performance potential matrix. So that's one update there. And also I had originally the video listed as unlisted, and I've moved it to public to fix a mistake there. Cool, we can go on to the next questions. Sid, you're up first. Sid,
you're muted, Sid.
Thanks. Can we talk about MR slicing? Can you elaborate a bit? What I suspect is that people are making things that don't add value to the end user, and they're slicing it up like that, and that's not a good idea. We should have some incremental value to the end user, but it's a very long issue, so I couldn't completely wrap my head around it.
Yeah. So what the intent here is the intent is to Dylan came up with this proposal, and basically it's looking at a definition that we already have associated with it. And we're going to actually talk about during iteration office hours. So that's one thing that we can certainly debate it here, but there may be some folks who attended iteration office hours who maybe aren't here, so we may end up talking about it in both places. I agree that we need to make sure that we're providing customer value associated with it. Dylan has definitely seen cases where we've done some level of breaking up problems where he's calling it horizontal slicing versus vertical slicing. I don't think this is happening actually in a lot of cases. That's actually one of the comments that he made in there is he wants to be encouraging for these types of situations to make sure that we're basically providing value associated with it. But it's not a vast majority, and that's I think that's one reason why there's a long discourse in there, is because this potentially forces us into thinking about MR breakdown in only one way, which iteration says that, while we need to provide value to customers, we should be thinking creatively in a multiple different directions associated with it to basically address it. So that's kind of where we were on Tuesday, and then I believe he made an update to it, though I haven't read the update yet to have a better visibility into how it's changed since then.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't see it on the iteration office hours agenda for today, so I just added it as 0.6 on that agenda, and we can discuss it there.
I thought Craig Gomes had put it earlier in the agenda, but if he didn't.
Oh, he did. Item 4. Thanks, Craig.
By the way, I don't think it's anybody's intending not to provide value. I think it's just more of making sure that we're working effectively in these situations.
Yeah, look, I think we got this MR rate goal, and people are looking up to splice things smaller. That's really good. We want them thinking about that. But I think we have to set the bar that there has to be some value. And it can even be that you just push an API that's documented and it's not in the interface, but it cannot be things like, hey, I made something and I didn't document it, or I made something and it's only useful if this other MR lands. I think that's going too far. That's my quick take.
CJ, you're adding some comments. Do you want to verbalize them? And then
yeah, I'll type them when I'm done. But I don't think this is about throughput or sorry, that's renamed. But merged MRs. I think the way our review process is set up pushes developers to do this as well. So for example, if you only create a database migration, you'll have 1 or 2 reviewers because they're database reviewers. But then if you also add something in the front end and back end, then you might end up with 3 or 4 reviewers to also include UX and other parties. So I think sometimes developers want to have their MR merged faster. And to do that, you need to limit the amount of eyes you need on a merge request. So I wonder if also the process we got on the merge request and danger rules and everything combined also drives to to have them split up MRs based on feature categories more than, or actually technologies used other than customer value.
Yeah, I think we need to be super careful. I do think that we don't want to have multiple, like to your point, if you have multiple types of reviewers in an MR associated before we merge, that's going to lead to a lot of bigger MRs, and that's definitely not the intent. The suggestion that Dylan was originally proposing is, well, you cut scope associated with it. The example you made of a migration, this certainly could be debated by some folks, but I think actually a well thought out migration actually provides value to the customer, particularly if it sets us up either for better organization and capability in the future. So like, I think that, it's not always, I'm trying to think how to articulate it. I want to say direct product value, but like maybe IECV value from that perspective versus, our existing customer base associated with it. So, but to your point, I think that's the other thing is Dylan in this particular, if I'm channeling my inner Dylan for this in the conversation we had, Dylan's kind of basic premise is we got to make it easier for maintainers to also review and evaluate code associated with things. Cool. Christy.
Hi. So I was excited to see the performance pairing sessions. I saw that in Slack this morning, then I see it also in your slides. Tim Zalman, thank you for inviting UX. Really appreciated seeing that. Can you talk more about why we're doing it, what people can expect if they show up, and then also what outcome we're hoping for? One, because I just want to understand this initiative. The other part of my motivation here is to see whether or not this is something that we could also do in UX for pajamas migration, because I'm looking for ideas there.
Tim, you want to take a crack at it?
Yes, thank you, and happy to invite both UX, quality, product, and both sides of engineering to that, because I believe it's really like a whole topic for everyone involved building the product. And the idea is quite simple. I want to have a forum where, first of all, we share knowledge, how to improve performance, but first of all, how to get to the base of what can be improved. So we have right now, especially in engineering, we have tons of logs and monitoring tools, and we have site speed, and we have the outside real measurements from Google, and we have Chrome user experience report, and we have developer tools. So we have like a huge broadband of tools that we can actively use at GitLab, specifically for GitLab. So that is nothing that you can go out and say, okay, there's a course on front-end masters, how to improve performance, but rather what do we have around in our toolbox at GitLab to share that knowledge so that everyone is really knows about it, is involved. Then get from there, so starting with the knowledge sharing and the constant like courses, there's a classic do two things at the same time. As we are doing those sessions, we will record them, we will give them, we will put them on YouTube unfiltered, and that is basically everyone can look up then the different performance topics and tools. And leading to that is then really also solutions. How can we provide a better performance, either from engineering, but also simply from product and UX, because there is a classic thing in performance, which is magic. It's classic David Copperfield tricks. It's like, look over here, while we are loading all the stuff that really helps in perceived performance. And I believe this is where we need to get, we can do tons of tricks between front-end and back-end, but also tons of tricks between UX, front-end and back-end to increase the performance and do this constantly. And I know there are a lot of people very interested in the topic on all sides. So this is really bringing everyone together on having a forum. And then this is why I called it session. I didn't have a better name for it, is to have the second part for really pairing part. So this is going in. I called it right now, bring your own route. So wherever you're coming from, whatever type of part of the product you're coming, bring your own route that your group is working on. bring it to the session. We will take a look at it. We will take a look at the video, at the waterfalls, at the different topics, and then really figure out how we can improve that. And hopefully through that, we can increase the knowledge in all the teams around performance and have really a constant spotlight on it and really help to, improve GitLab.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that explanation and also for doing it. I think it's exciting. You and I meet frequently, and you've been super generous with explaining all these performance concerns to me. And you're right, there are a lot of disparate things. And so it's been hard for me to take it all in. So I will try to attend.
Awesome. And looking forward to see as many people as possible, and also bringing your own topics and routes. And looking forward to it. See you next Monday in that session.
Hey, Tim, I'm trying to fill in with specifics some of the things you say. And when you say magic, I think about like, hey, when someone hovers over a link, we can already start preloading that page. When we say there's lots of metrics, I think like maybe as a company, we should say largest contentful paint at the 75th percentile as like the one metric to rule them all. Not because it's perfect, but because we need some clarity of what is the most important. How do those specifics sound to you?
Perfect. I'm a huge fan of the KPI that you have suggested with the LCP. And we are really, as we have really the OKR right now this quarter with the LCP for the 5 most used routes. What I would like to see and what my suggestion will be for next quarter is to simply extend, instead of having those 5 most used routes with an LCP below 2.5 seconds, is to have everything that we monitor right now. We have 90 different routes that we monitor every 4 hours through SiteSpeed. And we can even build dashboard and say how many of those are below 2.5 seconds, how many are above. And I really hope that this session can help to really get as many as them as soon as possible below that part. And I think LCP is perhaps not the perfect thing, but it is a number that we can target. And the 2.5 second is a good average that we can also target.
Cool, that sounds great. Thank you.
I've got the next comment. Tim, are we looking at this from an SEO angle as well? Increase page speed load so that SEO goes up?
Yes, that to some extent even started. I have access to the Google Search Console. So I'm basically once a week in the Google Search Console and take a look, because they have also performance reports based on the so-called Chrome user experience report, which is like everyone that goes into Chrome and says, I want to report all the data to Google that goes there, even which pages they visit and how fast they are. So in the Google Search Console, we get the so-called run data, which is real user monitoring data, back about GitLab, because GitLab is a very much used page. So that is a huge benefit for us. And there we have charts in there that told us, hey, look, these routes were slow for actual users. So this is not monitoring, this is actual users that had slow pages. And I think it was in July that we had no more pages that were for Google looking bad. We brought this down to 0. We are constantly monitoring this for performance and also for 500s. That is another topic. As Google is very good at looking at all the things with their crawlers, they are also very good at finding those 500s, and we are then trying to digest it into fixing those. And this helps definitely SEO, and directly is a really nice monitoring as you have it with so many users using our stuff to get a better insight how it is working in the real world.
That's great. Thank you.
And just for those who are interested, I added to the agenda notes, we have the LCP for the KPI placeholder documented. It does point right now to a Grafana set of charts for the first 5 that we're focused on that Tim was discussing. So we'll be working in the next couple months to get those over to Snowflake and basically demonstrated as that. Cool. Sid, you have the next question.
Yeah, it's more of a statement, but there's weird stuff going on with our SEO, and we don't quite get it. And I suggested, and I have a deep link to that comment, that maybe we're inadvertently blocking Googlebot. And it seems that we block Googlebot from accessing readmes by blocking our GraphQL endpoint. So that was fixed, but I'd love everyone to be aware that projects on GitLab.com are not ranking as they should be, and it's hurting the company. We see overall web traffic static while it should be increasing, and there's things that should rank that don't. So I want everyone in development to be aware of that and have the collective brain focused on this.
Thanks for that. And in transparency, I wasn't aware of this, but we'll get on it and investigate it.
Cool, thanks for that.
Well, it sounds like nobody has any further questions. I was doing the awkward pause to make sure that if anybody had any last minute things that they wanted to throw in, but it looks like we're good. So I want to thank everybody for a great group conversation and a good discussion. See everybody.